very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 181st episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Just over 2 years ago, when the pandemic had just set in and schools had closed down, we here at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on discussing problems they were facing with the rising need of digital education and online learning and arrive at common solutions. Today, 181 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we could have ever anticipated, all thanks to your love and support. We have discussed extremely curricular topics here, like digital learning, NEP and assessments, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance and management, and even evolved topics like mental health. Today, we have a wonderful topic, teaching humility. Well, while opening this topic, it would be incomplete if we do not mention one name, a Padma Bhushan and a Padma Vibhushan awardee, philanthropist, and one of the most successful businessmen the country has ever produced, and a personal favorite of mine, Mr. Ratan Tata. There is a very interesting and also much spoken anecdote which I would like to share. In 1999, Tata Motors decided to cut a deal with American giant Ford to sell their car production unit due to the poor sales of the newly launched Tata Indica car. Ratan Tata and his team flew to meet Mr. Bill Ford, the then chairman of Ford. But what happened there was mortifying. Apparently, Bill Ford said that Ford will be doing Tata a favor by buying their car division. Ratan Tata listened patiently and decided not to sell the production unit. What happened later is all history. In 2008, Ford was on the verge of bankruptcy following the Great Recession, and that's when Ratan Tata offered to buy two iconic brands of the Ford portfolio, Jaguar and Land Rover. In June 2008, he acquired Jaguar and Land Rover from Ford in an all-cash deal, and as reported by First Post, Ford chairman Bill Ford thanked Tata, saying, "You are doing us a big favor by buying JLR." Well, ladies and gentlemen, that sums it all. Humility is indeed the key to your success, and particularly when it is preached by one of the most humble entrepreneurs the country has ever seen. Our first speaker on this topic is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Students' Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster. With great distinction, he also carried a divisioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He's also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. And we at Notebook are privileged to have Mr. Burrett as our senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for being here today, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Gagovi. I hope I am audible.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, very good topic, and a very good evening to you, everyone at the
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
at Notebook, Achin, Subayu, Abhishek, Gagori, you, and Meghna. Okay, so, the word humility has the same Latin root as the word humus, which is the part of the uppermost part of the soil. The connection being that the soil, which we destroy, erode, and pay little heed to, still produces the food we need, still produces the grass for our cattle. So the soil is the most humble of all resources that we have. We try and destroy it, and yet it serves us. And I think that humility is a trait that can be taught in schools. It is important, I think, to understand that there is a sharp line which divides humility and confidence on the one hand, and humility which sounds like abject sycophancy or fawning or being servile on the other. Being humble is not being spineless or abjectly servile. And being humble is in no way opposed to confidence or holding one's head high. Of course, by lowering our significance, we should not lower our self-esteem. We should value our self-worth and our belief system, but limit our self-importance. Our lives are not to be undervalued or overvalued due to our race, beliefs, or nationality, or where we come from, or our birth. With humility, we look deep within ourselves to find that we are all one. This realization will bring us closer to empathy and loving of our neighbors and our fellow men. I think that humility is the willingness to learn, to be curious about others. It is the ability to curb our egos, to listen to people, and not to accept everything. I think it is also the belief that other people are cleverer, smarter, more powerful than us. I think it also, rests on the fact that we need to learn from others. It is putting the needs of others ahead of our own needs. And I think that humility is opposed to arrogance, pride, and conceit. And since arrogance is rooted in insecurity, which is a defense form of defense mechanism from feeling of weakness, arrogant folks have a warped view of themselves and a skewed view of themselves and the world. Eventually, humility also means facing our own mortality, knowing that we are going to die and knowing that we are not that important. How do you teach humility? I think the best way to teach humility is by role modeling it. It comes from parents and teachers, elders. I think there are three parts to humility, to understanding our humility. One is accurate self-perception. How do we see ourselves? The second is modest self-portrayal. How do we portray ourselves? Do we portray ourselves bigger than who we are? And the last is we need to have an other-oriented stance. We need to believe that we are here in this world to take care of others, to serve others, not ourselves. And so the best way, as I said, is to model this behavior. If teachers and parents model this, kids pick it up. We also need to teach them to applaud others. We need to teach our children to give credit where it is due, learning to accept defeat. I know that in my last school, we had a lovely prayer, which apart from other things, had asking us to be humble in victory and generous and magnanimous in defeat. So if we are defeated, we have to give credit to who defeated us. And if we won, we have to be humble. Also, I think humility can be developed by community service, helping children to see people who are less fortunate than us, seeing how fortunate and how grateful we should be for ourselves and what we have. And it is this community service going into people's areas that are not so rich or say well off as us. And this servant leadership, teaching them to serve, not self-serving, but serving others, is a wonderful way of teaching humility. We also need to teach the children to apologize when they make mistakes. And we have to apologize to them when we make mistakes. They also have to learn the flip side of success. Today's children are so success-driven, driven to economic success with friends. But there's always the flip side to it. The poor also seem to be much happier than us. We also need to be accountable. Our children need to be accountable, and it comes from the root of humility. If they promise something, they have to deliver. If not, they have to own up to it. They should learn to spend less time being right all the time. And this willingness, they have to have a willingness to control pride. This control this whole idea that I am bigger than you, I'm always right. We also have to learn to teach children to ignore the negative of others and not to be too quick to judge and find fault with others, but to look into ourselves and judge ourselves more than we judge others. For example, if one's loved one gets involved in a minor car accident due to reckless driving, it may be difficult not to judge their actions and to always find a reason why they deserve that. But we should ask ourselves, do we need to judge? There could be so many things that led to that. It is not just reckless driving or being under the influence of alcohol. The moment you judge others, you then stand on a pedestal of being superior and point out the weaknesses of others. But we need to curb this in our children. We need to expand this the sense of self and this overconfidence. And this comes by not humiliating our children. At a young age, we need to build up the egos of our children. We need to give them awards, we need to give them praise, we need to give them accolades, because it is people who have been brought down, cut down in size, who have no self-esteem, who will be bombastic, conceited, proud, arrogant. But if you build children up and build up their egos, they do not. They seem to be more humble. If they're good at something, if they're very competent at something, competent children are humble children because they know that they are good. We need to discourage in everything that we do this whole attitude of entitlement. The entitlement that I have to be the school captain, I'm good enough for this and I'm good enough for that. Sometimes you're not, and we have to accept that. That's humility. We also but to be grateful and value what you have is to be mindful, the whole time to be mindful. We also need to teach our children the whole idea of being, asking for help when they need it. And when there's a setback, to accept it. Asking for feedback. Even teachers should ask for feedback, and when they need help. I think humble children are children who are not scared of making mistakes. They are teachable. They recognize that no matter how much they know, there's always more to know, that there's always people who know more than that. We must teach our children to let others speak, to listen more, to back down from useless fights and arguments. Arguments will happen in life, but the practice of humility will teach them to even back down from a fight where you're right. Always be polite to children because we want them to be polite to others. And to teach them to work as a team. We have to raise good team players, not selfish players, where you learn to take care of the other people. Also, I think teachers must learn to give children an idea of where their real value comes from. Their real worth and value doesn't come from the car their father owns or the job their father has or how many hotels they've been to or how many tourist spots they've been to. But it's that music that they have or that love for art or something that they are creating. The real value doesn't lie in externals or what the parents have done. It lies in whatever little the child has achieved. And also, I think in this day and age of where they want to have friends and they have to have Facebook friends more than their other, this fear of missing out or FOMO, I think we need to teach children that it's okay that people don't like you. Many people feel this excessive need to be liked. More so today, as I said. They need peer acceptance, this mob mentality. They dress alike, they read the same books. I think with the overpowering network of social media in our lives, we must teach them that they should get the right form of attention. And not just seek numbers of friends are not more important than the quality of friendship. But if someone doesn't enjoy their presence, they should not take this to heart and seek their approval. The others might have reasons, but those reasons do not have to be illuminated. There is a tempting sense of empowerment in our current age of information that can lead to a loss of reverence and even entitlement to know things. If nothing else, modern technology access has replaced subtlety with spectacle and process with access. I think that the phase humility is not about thinking less of yourself, but of yourself less. And this sums up my idea of what humility is. We need to teach the children that we are all equal, and that this concept brings us more in tune with the spiritual side. I was reading an article the other day which said that most of us have a deeper life and a more superficial life. And today, what's happening is that a lot of children are leading this superficial life. But when we get deeper and force them to meditate and be mindful, they unearth a deeper, which I would also call a spiritual aspect or a facet of their lives. And humility comes from this deeper facet. Arrogant parents and teachers, as well as schools, breed arrogant students. At the school I taught in, it was a very elitist public school. It was very easy for students to think that, oh, they had arrived. And I would always tell them two things: that we are not in any way better than other schools. We are just another good school doing things that we do well. There are many schools out there that do things better than us in many areas. The other thing I would always tell them was that since about 400 to 500 students applied to join the school, and we only taken 100, 80 to 100, that for every one of you who's in school, 4 people or 3 people were rejected. Think of them. Think of the places of those other people that you have taken. And therefore, to whom much has been given, from them much will be expected. And therefore, the people who came to the Doon school would have to serve the country, serve the world, because they were fortunate, much was given to them, and therefore much will be expected of them. And that school was not going to be an easy ride and a cakewalk. With that, I hope I have set the ball rolling. Thank you very much for listening. Over to you, Gagori.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. As usual, thank you for the much insightful deliberations. As usual, you're wonderful, sir. The connect between the deeper world and the superficial world was really awesome. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we would welcome our next speaker on this topic, who's Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya, the founder and CEO at Notebook. He's a chartered accountant by training, and Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland, and a member of CIMA UK. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and a passionate traveler, Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He's a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Gauri, am I audible?
Absolutely.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session. Now, when we think of great leaders, humility may not always be the first word we would use to describe them. For instance, if you look at the corporate world, many bigger than life executives, such as Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, would likely be described first as a visionary, bold, charismatic. Yet, if you look more closely, there are also visionary leaders who are often described as humble and at times even laid back, like Richard Branson. A survey of computer product firms published in the Journal of Management found that humble leaders resulted in higher performing teams, more flexibility, they're more approachable, which ensured better collaboration within the team, better communication channels. The research has also found that humble leaders are more patient listeners, which is, I guess, one of the most important qualities of a leader, and naturally inspire greater teamwork. Now, millennials, who today make up a significant portion of the workforce, are primarily responsible for changing leadership trends in a positive way. Research shows that they generally tend to adapt, and Barsa was discussing about this servant type of leadership, which is more collaborative, more humble, and driven by well-being of all the team members working for the greater good. And as we all know that they're more inclined to leave jobs when they're not fulfilling, even if they're financially rewarding otherwise. Many organizations are paying attention to this type of leadership because it has been proved historically that teams are performing far better while working with leaders who are more patient listeners, who ensure that they take care of team's interest first. But before stepping into the corporate pavilion, let's take a look at some world leaders who have truly set benchmarks in this regard, sometimes with very, very small gestures on their part, but indelible footprints. I was reading about New Zealand's Minister of Women, Julianne, who cycled to hospital to give birth to her child because, and she mentioned this on social media, there was not enough room in the car for the support crew. So she let her support crew use her car and she herself cycled her way to the hospital. I was reading about Jose Mujica, Uruguay's former president. And when he was elected in 2009, just post-election, he donated all his money to charity, shunned the opulent presidential mansion that he was formerly supposed to live in, and lived a life of simplicity in a very small farm in the outskirts of the capital with his wife. Another incident, which I think is truly heartwarming. I remember watching this small news clipping. Justin Trudeau, the Canadian leader, personally greeting Syrian refugees at the airport and handing out warm winter coats to them when they're stepping into Canada. Next, another incident, really remarkable. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. I was reading about him who cycles to work every day. As we all know, Amsterdam is like the biking capital of the world. But imagine the Prime Minister going to work every day in his bicycle. And once a week, he also teaches children in a school. That's a part of his routine. And this 51-year-old Prime Minister, he once accidentally spilled coffee on the floor of his office while walking on the corridor. And he himself mopped it up. Now, incidents like this are truly an eye-opener. Also, if we remember very recently, Croatian president who gave hugs to players of both teams. There was the Germany versus France, Croatia versus France football match. And she traveled economy class to watch the match. And in the stadium, not only her own players, but all players, she welcomed them with open arms. And the last incident about global leaders is, of course, closer home. One of the greatest sons of the soil that the country has ever produced, our ex-president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I was reading about him, and this was in social media as well. He packed worn out, repaired chappals for his last journey to Shillong. He used to use them. Ex-president. When he went for a lecture to IIM Shillong, which was his last journey, he collapsed on the podium. And the topic of his lecture was creating a livable planet Earth. all about sustainability, all about recycling, and he lived by example. That was a great man. It is said that powerful people rarely lack confidence, but they often lack humility. Another very interesting incident. I was reading about Sam Rayburn, who served as the Speaker of the House of Representatives in US Congress for 17 years, in fact. As the Speaker of the House, he wielded incredible power and prestige, naturally, 17 years at one go, Speaker of the House. He was third in the line of succession to the presidency. One day, he found that the teenage daughter of a reporter friend of his had tragically died. Next morning, early morning, Sam knocked on the door of his friend. When the door opened, he asked his friend if he could help in any way. His friend stammered back, saying, "I don't think there's anything that you can do. We have made all the arrangements of the funeral." His reply was, "Well, have you had coffee in this morning? And can I help you?" He walked inside and made coffee for the family. As they watched, suddenly his friend remembered and asked him that, as far as I know, there was a breakfast meeting at the White House with the president today morning. Sam replied, "Well, yes, I was invited to the White House, but I called the president and I told him I had a friend who was in trouble and I couldn't come." So great humility can also be exercised by people of great power. Now, another true incident closer home. This is about a well-known industrialist from Pune, India, Mr. Poonawalla, Zavire Poonawalla. I was reading about him that he had a driver named Ganga Dutt who had driven his car for 30 years. He used to drive his limousine for 30 years. When the driver passed away, when Ganga Dutt passed away, and Mr. Poonawalla was in Mumbai for some meetings, for some work, as soon as he heard the news, he cancelled all his prior engagements, requested for the family of his driver to wait for the cremation, and came back to Pune immediately by helicopter. On reaching Pune, he asked the car to be decorated with flowers, and he wished that his driver should be taken for cremation in the same car that he had driven for 30 years. And he himself drove Ganga Dutt from his home up to the Ghat in his last journey. And when asked about it, his reply was that he had served me day and night. And I'm eternally grateful to him. And his comment in the end, I think it sums it up very well. He also said that everyone earns money for a living. We all do it. We need money in life. There's nothing unusual or great about it. But it's important to be grateful to those who contribute to our success. An inspiring example of humility. I think when we discuss about teaching humility to children, it's important to understand some traits of humble leaders and how to incorporate them, how to inculcate them, how to nurture them. I think most importantly, it's really important that children be taught that it's not about taking credit all the time. It's about putting other people first. It's not about taking ourselves too seriously, because at times, humble leaders do not try to protect a reputation. It's about maintaining a very, very delicate, healthy balance between self-awareness on one hand and self-confidence on the other hand. It's not about all the time worrying about trying to look good. Third, I think it's important to ensure that others are successful. And fourth, very important, humble leaders, they don't blow their own trumpet all the time. They know their strength and they're not hesitant to talk about it. But they don't need to constantly remind others about their worth, about their accomplishment, or about their importance, or the fact that others are no good without him or her. It's about values like kindness and respect towards others. Humility, because when we discuss about this, humble leaders are not afraid to influence. They're completely okay to be opinionated on certain aspects, completely comfortable in the corridors of power and authority, but refraining from using it for personal gains and rather using it for the good of others. I think that is what is most important. And next aspect, I think very, very important, inspiring trust, teamwork, and authenticity. Leaders who exemplify humility, they very rarely have a personal agenda. And naturally, they're much more easier to trust, being good listeners, understanding the other person's perspective. At times, we do agree to disagree, but in a very respectful way, ensuring that the other person gets a fair hearing. Finding joy in other people's success. And very important, being grateful for what we have. I think if we can teach our children gratitude, because gratitude is at the core of people who are content, happy, and live a healthy life. There'll always be someone who will have more than them. There'll always be someone who may be bigger or have better stuff. So it's not about always competing and winning or coming first. It's equally important to be grateful for what we have. And only gratitude will bring in peace, joy, which are hallmarks of humility. The other, I think, very important aspect is coming to terms with the fact that we don't need to be always right. Even leaders are human. They do make mistakes. And it's completely natural, completely normal. I think what is important is not to repeat those mistakes and have the honesty and humility to acknowledge them and make course corrections, taking responsibility rather than making excuses or passing the buck. And the fact is, when they receive inputs from someone else, not letting ego come in between, but rather being willing and acceptable to change. Because in today's age, I think it's equally important to unlearn. It's equally important to let go of the baggage. It's equally important to be receptive to change. So I think these were certain aspects that I wanted to discuss. Burrett gave us a great start. And we have a wonderful panel here today. Panel of very esteemed and senior educators with decades of experience. So I really look forward to their inputs, their real life experience, case studies, etc. in this very important topic. I thank all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. Over to you, Gauri.
Thank you so much, Achin. Well, it's not about taking credit. It's about putting others first. That can come from someone who's a true entrepreneur at heart. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have a wonderful panel lined up for you. But before that, we will little bit understand about Notebook. We at Notebook are an edtech platform that creates short videos pertaining to school curriculum. This means that every topic from every subject of the school syllabus has been converted into a series of short videos that can be used in two different cases. One is when you as a teacher are starting out a topic in your classroom, you can play one of these videos as a method of visually introducing the topic to your students. These videos are just 6 to 10 minutes in duration and take up very little of your class time, while offering the right kind of material to students to generate curiosity and excitement. The second is when the student is studying at home months later, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices, be it a laptop or a smartphone. They can watch the videos over and over again until they get a very clear understanding of the topic that you are taught. What I'm going to do now is play you some short snippets of notebook videos so that you know what they exactly look like.
Tina found an exclusive collection of dresses kept under new arrivals. The prices of the dresses are as tabulated on your screen. She wanted to buy the most expensive dress. For finding that, we have to learn how to compare numbers. Take a look at these numbers. Among these, which one is the greatest?
During the 17th and 18th centuries, many European colonizers had settled in South Africa for trading purposes. They gradually turned into local rulers and started dominating the native Africans.
Gautama Buddha was born as Siddhartha Gautama in Lumbini in Nepal in 563 before Christ. He grew up in Kapilavastu. At the age of 12, he went to school to learn the Hindu scriptures. 4 years later, he returned home, married a princess and had a son. At the age of 25, Prince Siddhartha came in contact with the sufferings of the world.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, those were some short snippets from notebook videos, as you just now saw. We have today connected with over 2,000 schools and have had more than 26 lakh students benefit from our videos. If you head over to our website, www.notebook.school, or use our mobile apps for Android and iOS, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. With that, it is now time to introduce the wonderful panelists that we have with us today. We have with us Dr. Malini Sharma, Principal, Army Public School, Hempur. She holds a BSc, B.Ed, MA in Economics, MPhil, PGDHRM from Symbiosis, and also a PhD. She has been working as principal since the last 16 years. She has published around 5 national and 2 international research papers. Ma'am has been awarded Indira Gandhi Excellence Award by ex-Chief Election Commissioner Sri G.V.G. Krishnamurthy in February 2013 for individual achievement and contribution in the field of education. Shiksha Ratna Puraskar by India International Friendship Study in November 2012 for exemplary contribution to the field of education. Best Teachers Award by SDM of Kashipur and PT of Kendriya Vidyalaya for producing 100% results, only to name a few. She has also held many portfolios as House Captain at school level, Joint Secretary of Chemical Society, Finance Secretary of Women's Association at college level. Ma'am, a very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Next, we have with us Dr. Sridevi Kumbhalingam, who holds an MA, MEd, and MPhil. With over 23 years of teaching experience in academic landscape, she has been a principal for 10 years, both in CBSE and Matric. She is currently working as a principal in Good Shepherd's English School, Puducherry. She has attended CBSE PRP program on ASL life skills, remodel structure of assessment, gender sensitivity, value education, classroom management, career guidance, art integrated education, stress management, time management, and experiential learning. She has received Inventive Leadership, Bhishma, the Determination Award by DFE Best Speaker Award by Benfeed Ed Talks at Coimbatore, Bhairava Award in September 2020 for Excellence in Life-Oriented Education, Academic Excellence Innovation Award in 2021 by Edu Excellence, only to name a few. Ma'am, a very warm welcome to the panel once again. We also have with us Ms. Rupakshi Narang, Principal, Vijaya Senior Secondary School, Bahadurgarh, Haryana. Ma'am holds an MA in Psychology, MA in English, MSc in Environmental Science, and a Diploma in School Counseling from Symbiosis. She started her career in November 2004 as a substitute teacher, and it was the start of her journey. The very next year, she was promoted to Activity in Charge. In 2006, she was promoted to Primary in Charge, and finally in 2017, she was promoted as Principal. She's an independent poet and has her YouTube channel for the same. She has received the Best Rachna Award for her poem, Meri Kalam Se, in January 2020 by Hindi Vikas Manch. Ma'am, it's a pleasure to have you with us here today. Welcome to the panel. I shall switch on my camera now and request all of you to kindly switch on their cameras and unmute yourselves. A very good evening to all of you. I will start with Dr. Malini Sharma, ma'am, with my first question. Ma'am, my question, ma'am, you have to unmute yourself, please. Ma'am, my first question to you is, how do you teach humility to students, particularly in a classroom scenario?
First of all, my greetings to everyone present here. Gratitude to the notebook team and Dr. Sridevi Kumbhalingam, Mrs. Rupakshi Narang, Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya, Mr. Burrett, and on top of that, Ms. Gagori, for inviting me as one of the panelists. I am much humbled to be present here and presenting my views. I think with the highly read panel that you're having here, the way Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya and Mr. Burrett have covered all the aspects, that is all encompassing. You have covered almost every aspect, how humility can be taught. And I don't think they have left out any point for us to say. We just have to reflect on practices that we are following. And we will be reviewing our policies in relation to the points which you have discussed. And I'm trying to correlate whatever practices we are following in schools and how we are teaching humility through them. Very good points have been laid out by people here. The activities that we follow to inculcate humility is like having role plays and skits. We have got a lot of programs in the morning assembly where students act out plays and skits which reflect these values. And then in exercises, be it English or be it Hindi, in literature subject, stories are given where the students have to predict the end. Or sometimes a starting line is given and then the students have to add on to the story. And we see to it that the child is adding in a way that he reflects some value. And then thinking of a solution is again a point, is again a way which can inculcate humility. Then we have a very good system here, which is the buddy system in army schools, where every child has a buddy. One child is allotted to you and you both learn together, you sing together, you swim together. If a child doesn't learn, then the buddy is responsible for that person. So that is a beautiful system we have in Forge also. Two people, they learn together. If one child cannot understand, the other child explains that, yes, I will explain this to you. And if one particular child is not able to understand, the buddy is asked why this child hasn't learned. So this way they learn the value of sharing, caring for each other. So this is how it all happens. Then, rightly said, we have community outreach program. The new education policy also lays stress on the community outreach program so that we can connect with the society and understand the real problems which lie with the society and how students can offer creative solution. Not only creative solution, but they be part of life and they can help the people to prosper, to grow. They can be contributing members of the society. For these programs, like we plan visits to places like orphanages, to specially abled schools, where the children can be in touch with these children and they can understand that, yes, they are also part of society and we need to do something for them. So this creates a feeling of not only compassion, but compassion which is, overladen with a feeling of responsibility. It should not be a kind of pity. See, compassion and pity are two different things. They should not pity the underprivileged people in the society. They have to feel that, yes, since we are privileged, we are having everything, it is our duty to help out these students. So I took my senior students to a specially able school. I was afraid that they will humiliate them or will they ever interact with them, because there we saw a lot of students who were visually impaired, who were mentally retarded. Some students were suffering with cerebral palsy, but I was amazed at the way my students beautifully connected with them. And
one or the other child posing for photo, a mentally retarded child, asking them to click photographs of his, and my children of class 12, they were clicking his photographs and showing it to him that this is your photograph which we have clicked and we'll be sharing with you. And you will not even believe, one of the child was a mentally retarded child. He had more followers on Instagram than even a normal child would have. So they were feeling so happy when they met the children, that they were being appreciated, they were being given gifts. So, my point of saying is that by interacting with the society, making our children interact with the society, we can teach humility to them. Then again, like Mr. Philip Burrett also said, and Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya gave such beautiful examples of people who are living in society who are humble and yet leaders. Yes, humble leaders is a new term which I have learned. But because we've been always hearing of leaders like Hitler, and there have been dictatorship, leaders with a dictatorship. There are team leaders, and then there are charismatic leaders, there are group leaders. All those sorts of leaders are there, but a humble leader, I think he also pointed out to one of the researchers that humble leaders are able to get better results as compared to the other kind of leaders. So that itself points out that how much importance humility has as a leader. So even in students, when they come together in groups, when they are doing project works, they are again taught the value of collaboration, the value of understanding each other, the value of understanding to look at the problems of the other persons through their perspective, not their own perspective. It sometimes happens that children end up into quarrels, or all the time the teacher isn't there. Children have got small issues of their own, and very small issues. If you go to a class 3, they'll have a problem over my pencil has been taken over by this child. They'll have fight over such small issues. But then they need to, then there always is a group leader who emerges, and he sorts out the problems, and then they come to a solution. But see, somewhere these values come into play. That is why the issues are sorted out. So it is not that the teachers have to teach everything. Children have to learn through life examples. They have to see life through their own Google lens. Everything cannot be taught through a formula. It cannot be taught through lessons. It cannot be, there cannot be a theory or a text written on that. They have to learn through their own experiences. So I believe that the children should be taught in a way that they understand, they develop the rationality, and they develop this analytical and logical reasoning skills, that yes, when a person is successful, or when a person is able to get success, what were the qualities with which he could get that success. So it is we have to create that power in children to look into things. Please, they should not be taught to look at the surface things. Like I think Mr. Philip Burrett also said that we are living a superficial life. So we just look at, even in schools, it's all statistics. Kis school mein kitne bache first aaye, kitne bache kitna percent top pe raha. We never pay attention to these students who have been getting 30%, but now they have come up to 60% or 70%. A person getting 30% and now getting 50% is also a success in itself. And we have a kind of environment where every teacher appreciates the little progress every child has made. It may be a very small progress. It may be a very small achievement. A child not able to say thank you, but some other day he says thank you to a friend. I think that also has to be celebrated. That also has to be given due appreciation. So very little things in child's life have to be appreciated. For that, the teacher has to be very, very vigilant. The teacher has to be very observant. And like there is a thing in CBSE, we develop the profiles of students. A child profile is maintained, where we are writing the strengths, the weaknesses. We are also maintaining the anecdotal records. Like, small happenings in life child. Today, the child had a fight with somebody over his report, or his book was stolen. Then how did this child behave? Or how did he correct that problem? So how did he come at that solution? So even these small incidents are recorded in the anecdotal record, which gives us insight into the psychology of the child. And when we maintain the child's profile, suppose the child was getting 5 marks, in the next test he gets 10 marks, or the child has shown interest in making a very good drawing, the child has shown interest in reciting a poem. All these things are recorded in the child's student's profile. And then this profile is handed over to the next teacher, to the next class. Now, the teacher in the next session, that teacher goes to the profile, through the profile. Now the teacher understands that, yes, these are the strengths and these are the weaknesses of the child. And how can we work further on this child? So that gives a clear picture of the child, and we get to know the value system of the child. So then again, for creating values, I have a think tank of my own. My teachers, at the end of the month, they sit together, we discuss the progress of the child. No, a single teacher cannot give the report card of a child, like the child is weak in maths. This is how we do it. At the end of the term exam or the half-yearly exam, the report card is given. The child is weak in maths, work hard in maths, work hard in English, you need to pay more attention to social studies. These are the comments that we write. But do we ever think that why is the child weak in maths? Why is the child weak in social science? What kind of help does he require? Whenever I go to the classes, I tell my student, a teacher is merely a facilitator. You have the spark within you. You make your own peer learning group. You are the ones who can help each other. So indirectly, I'm teaching them values of life, that every child in himself can contribute to your friend's growth. You yourself, you cannot ask very small confusions from the teacher. The teacher doesn't have that much of time. But as a class, it is your responsibility that your classmate also learns. You take responsibility of your own learning and of your classmates' learning also. So be it lessons of life, be it lessons in subjects. So learning, learning is a very broad phenomena. It is a broad thing. And subjects are just insights into what our ancient researchers have been done, our ancient educationists have put in books. Learning life through living together, I think it is more important. So this is how we teach humility to students. There is a lot to say, but it's very difficult to sum up everything because every small action there is a tint of analyzing values, and throughout the teacher emphasizes upon values and all, so that children learn the importance. So this is how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your inputs. We would like to come to Rupakshi ma'am next. Ma'am, if you can kindly unmute yourself.
Sure, Gaguri. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, Gaguri? Okay,
absolutely,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. And from the very beginning, I have started writing few points that I'll speak on the topic, and number of speakers, they have already covered the point. So first of all, I'll tell something myself, like after being principal, I'm taking 11-12 psychology also, and I'm counselor in the school. So
wonderful, ma'am.
I'll talk in the perspective of psychology. See, psychology.
I'd like to, yes, ma'am, please.
Should I?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, so psychology is a combination of two words, that is psych plus logos. Psych means soul or mind, and logos means study. So in psychology, we study the mind and soul of the student. So you all must not aware, I'm going to clarify you that there is a lot of difference between brain and mind. Is anyone aware of the same? Mind and brain? Okay, I go along with the same, because if we hurt someone, हम किसी को दुख पहुंचाते हैं, किसी की feelings को hurt करते हैं, we always say don't mind. We never say don't brain. So there is a broad difference between brain and mind. Brain consists of 4 lobes: frontal, occipital, temporal, which are responsible for the functions, how we see, how we speak, how we are perceiving the outside world. But inside the brain, there is some portion somewhere who is no one able to allocate. There is mind, which is responsible for all the feelings. And all the feelings, this mind is responsible for all the traits we are having. Now, what are the traits basically? All the properties, all the characteristics a human being owe, like humbleness, humility, if you are sweet, if you are openness, how you are taking other. So humility is one of your trait, one of basic personality characteristic which everyone should owe. So can we measure humility or can it be of the same level? No, not at all. Everyone cannot be of the same level of humbleness or humility. Now, there are two factors which are responsible for all these traits. Now, being psychologist, I must aware you about that nature and nurture concept. Now, what is the nature concept which tells us? Nature tells that whatever the trait or whatever the personality we are showing, it is only and only genetical based. DNA, genes जो हमारी heredity में होते हैं, that all the genes, their DNA, they are all the genes, they are responsible for all our characters. Generally, we have seen a child resemble in looks to her or her parents. Even sometimes we as a child often used to listen to the statement, you think like your mother, you speak like your mother used to do like this, your father used to do like this. So this is nature. And second thing is nurture. Nurture means the surroundings a child get. So how much humiliate a child will be in the future, it depends on the surroundings. The at home the atmosphere he is getting. And second is school. School is responsible for building of this trait of a child. So in a school, we all like principals, teachers, surrounding, they all are responsible for the student. So our topic basically is how do we teach our student lessons of humility in classrooms. Now, first about humility, definitely it is a feeling to think that you are not better than others. Now, I get you clear about that empathy. I'm not going to tell that how we used to go in our school. I'm just going to speak in a general perspective as a psychologist, that how we can correlate it with all the students from small to big, anywhere, whether he or she is here in India or in foreign. But this is a general perspective of humility, that how we have to go along with the students. Now, in class, there are not like all the students, they are of not equal level. If one teacher pamper one particular student, he is the best, he is the best, then definitely other students, they develop anger for that particular student. That teachers always pamper this boy, why we will do the labor, because teacher has to appreciate this. So definitely to bring that humility in students, what the measure we can take at our level? Let's make that weak boy sit with an intelligent boy, make them best friends. Moreover, apart from education, we can focus on other traits also, like the same appreciation must be given to a student who is good in sports, the same appreciation who is good in singing. So then, as Malini ma'am has already told, I have written that point also, by play activities, role play. Role play is very, very important. Like teachers, they have to act like that. And second thing, they must find the difference between empathy and sympathy. Like all the things they hadn't tell, all they are the two sides of a coin. Similarly, they must get clear about empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is definitely किसी से दया रखना. There is no need of sympathy or sympathize with anyone. But empathy is to put yourself in other shoe. If from the very beginning we teach this empathy feeling to the student, that whenever they are having angerness or they are having any complaint with their friend, so first they will put him or her in his or her shoe, and then you have to act accordingly. And the way they develop that empathy, their angerness, their anxiety, which is most of the students they are feeling nowadays, like daily 10 to 12 students, they are coming for counseling. Their anxiety level has risen, they have become so negative, they have developed. And I must say that, ma'am, you must agree with me that number of parents, they are saying that in these 2 years of lockdown, the performance of all the students has because not no
Ma'am, there's some disturbance at your end. We can't hear you.
The classes, but inside the laptop or most room, if we inculcate that psychology, the lessons of humility we teaching to them, the entire scenario for the long run we can change. Like we can focus on basically building of a human with good moral values. So humility can be teaching in the classroom if we make it a mandatory part of the curriculum. Nowadays, MSc, we just go till only 5th or 6th class. But these MSc books, they should be a part of the curriculum till class 12. These lessons should be taught to them and enacted in the classroom through various activities. And then in psychology, there's a term called reinforcement. Reinforcement, like bringing the measurements which increase the tendency by various incentives, by praising them in the assembly when they will get appreciation. So teachers, on the level of teachers, principals, we have to work really hard. Like our conversation boost up the student. Like when you call the student by his or her name, that how are you, Anvesha, how are you doing, there a smile comes on a child face. Hey, ma'am knows my name, she recognizes me, and her tendency will again be there, I should be on the stage and ma'am will call me with my name. So these methodologies we have to take to deal with the psychology of the student. We have to understand the psychology of each, and because a single strategy, I'm very sure that a single strategy we can't opt for all the students. All students are different, all students are unique. So we as a team leader with our staff members, we have to opt different strategies for different students, focus on their strength, weakness. Apart from that moral values of humility and how to be a good human being, we have to guide them well. And in this way, we can bring the best out of our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful deliberations. I will come to Sridevi, ma'am, next. Very good evening, ma'am. You have to unmute yourself, please. Ma'am, I have a different question for you. Ma'am, we can't hear you. Ma'am, are you there? Ma'am, we can't hear you. You have to connect to computer audio, I think.
Are you able to hear, ma'am?
Absolutely, ma'am. Now you're clear. Ma'am, so I just want to have this question for you. Like we had a lot of insights on teaching humility in classroom and how do we approach it for the students. Ma'am, are you there? Yeah. So, ma'am, teaching humility, can it be counterproductive? That's my question to you. Can it be disadvantageous at some point of time?
Yes, ma'am. It is a very great privilege to be in this part of the thing. The speakers already they will explain. Now, as you say, a humble mindset has a significant positive effects on our conjugative development and interpersonal decision making. Actually, humility is actually the confidence, as you say, the both we need to balance equally actually. So as we balance equally, both confidence makes us arrogant and humility makes us a patient. So we want to interlink with each other. Like a Caesar, we want to balance both the things. Knowledge is also important, money is also important. How we are balanced in a day-to-day life, the same thing, humility and confidence can be in both the level, we want to equalize the things. One thing I like to say, as in a Sanskrit word, they will say, apraviditya. Apraviditya, the meaning is as a deal with the subjects. Each teachers of the 5 language teachers, social teachers, science teacher, they give the potential effort to the children to deal with the subject knowledge. But that alone will not enough. Other thing is the Pradevitya is the creating a spirituality actually. So we need to balance both the subject and also the spirituality in the thing that is known as the Abhidivitya and Pradevitya. This is as you ask the questions as a balance. We need to balance both the thing, interlink with the what? Both the what? Confident plus humility. And actually teaching the last 5, as a teaching, we want to divide the 40 minutes into consequently divide. 5 minutes is a warm-up activity and other 30 minutes is a subject. Warm-up activity, we want to motivate the children to just interact with them, to listen the class properly. That is the essence actually. And 30 minutes class extract. And last 5 minutes is very, very important to balance that thing. The last 5 minutes is actually we need to inculcate the inspirational moral values to practice, like stories. Now here, as you all deal with humility, I like to tell a short story. At the time consumption, I make it short. If you put 100 red ants and 100 black ants together in one jar, nothing will happen. They used to be very happy in harmony, happiness and peace. But then some knucklehead comes along and shake the jar, but they don't shake it vigorously. So it pretty well, the 200 ants having been disoriented, all shaken up, have picked up the sides. They are no longer just 200 ants. Now, as they're living in a harmony, now they are fighting with each other. They are now 100 red ants versus 100 black ants. The peacefulness collapsed. So now the ants will start killing each other. So the red ant thought that black ant is killing me, and black ants thought that red is killing me, vice versa. So this is what happened in the society. We collaborate with each other in the classroom. Someone is like a knuckle thing. They used to shake, and they are just seeing, observing what we are doing. That is what happened in the society. Same goes with our society, men versus women, black versus white, and science, faith, and so on. I am now suggesting that we hide from the differences and divisions. Let us face, we have a green ants, or brown ants, or black ants, or whatever it may be. Did you know that there are more than 12,000 species in this earth, in this planet? In some ways, they are living together in a globe-shaped nation's jars. So they don't need to teach them how to live and survive, but actually allowing jar-shaking leaders in our temples and classroom, chambers, and many, many places in the earth. So let us, I conclude, let us live, lead, teach, serve, and parent with the passions for loving one another. Little kids playing together could care less what kind of ant you are. They can't recognize what kind of ant or each and everyone. They don't care if you are right-wing ant or moderate. So we all are ants living in a global shaped jar. Stop giving the jar shaker's voice. Give you here the heart-serving fellow, grace, dignity, kindness, and love. I think we are in a far better journey. So with this short story, we can just inculcate the children in a classroom. That is what ability and both balance the spirituality and education together in a classroom. And I like to say one thing else, to balance as humility is the disadvantages. Of course, definitely not. It is not a disadvantage. As many leadership quality, they just comes with the humility, with the balance of the confidence. For example, Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa and our famous Abdul Kalam, the great leaders, everyone is success with the help of the humility, with the confidence level. So to teach them, to bring the better leadership, as Bhattacharyya says, better humility to inculcate to the children's things, we need to just, what humility in a classroom is very, very essential. Now, I like the obligations that the CPSE, the board, or whatever the education pattern, it's a wonderful topic today. The notebook has discussion, the humility to be inculcated in a subject. As an NEP is going to inculcate many skills development. I just, as a principal at the head of the institution, I can just like to have a humility as a subject, even though we are having value education, as Malini, Sharma ma'am informed, anecdotal record. Everything is a namesake record. I don't want that things as a ma'am is a psychologist thing. We need to deal with the, what the students is both the thing balance, psychological aspects with the knowledge oriented. That is very, very important. Today's children, they are scoring 100 out of 100 marks, but they don't know what is sharing. Finally, I like to conclude by saying these things. We need to inculcate the children. The gratitude nature is very, very important. So in our school, we are practicing the gratitude card. Weekly once, compulsory from grade 5th to 12th standard. They want to share the gratitude words to each other, either friends or teachers or whoever in the campus, even aunties, that is ayahs or something, drivers, whoever in this institution, they have to give the gratitude words letter to each other. So this week, my gratitude is so and so. I feel gratitude. I'm thankful to each. This gratitude makes the child to be the positive enforcement in a reality of life, and that will be that gives us confidence And also, as we are raising the confidence, the same thing, the patience of humble. While writing the gratitude, one used to have the humble nature. Then only they can able to write a gratitude letter. If it's so or not, then of course, yes, if we have the gratitude means automatically the humble nature, humility nature will be day by day used to develop in the children. So this is what the best practice in our school we are doing. Weekly once, each and everyone, they used to share the gratitude card each other. That makes a positive mindset. And one more thing, we want to practice the children acceptance. There should be no argumentation. So whenever we used to pinpoint the children, there is no acceptation. No, ma'am, she is doing like that. He is doing like that. I didn't do anything. They want to excuse themselves. They never used to be acceptance nature. This as a child, this from the school to practice the humility, acceptance nature is also very important. So this we want to teach the children the acceptance nature as a gratitude and acceptance of the thankfulness. We need to inculcate the children. So as a thing, the birds, without one wings, the birds cannot be able to fly, of course. So with the two wings only, the birds can be able to fly. So one wing, we can give a knowledge of education. Other wing, we give the humility of that values to the children. So that let them fly with the free bird to just inculcate the tomorrow's citizen to be a leadership. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity, ma'am. And thank you, sir. Thank you so much, each and every delegates. Thank you so much for the wonderful gather. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to come to Malini Sharma, ma'am, once again, ma'am, with the very same question. Like, how do you think that humility is going to be counterproductive in some cases? Like, do we need to teach them a balance, proper balance, or between being arrogant and being humble? Like, how to balance between being confident and being humble? So, how to teach them the perfect balance?
See, I believe that these are value traits, and there is no correlation. There is no mathematical formula which can establish a correlation between these traits. But as generally seen, overconfidence may lead to arrogance. And usually, confident people are seen as good leaders because they usually take charge of situations. They have the power to take decision, and people are drawn to their positive attitude. And these confident people, they are not afraid to stand up and speak their minds. So in general, confident people are taken as team leaders. But then overconfidence then obviously lead to arrogance. A confident leader may or may not look to the, the requirements, may not be sensitive, may not be understanding of the problems of his group. So for that, I think a humility is an essential trait. A confident leader, yet humble, will be the best combination. Humility, as we see, it is a humble leader is the one who are good listeners. They are patient. They are willing to help each other. They are down to earth, and they have an ability to stay calm. And they are not egoistic. They stay grounded. And I believe that confidence and humbleness, it is the best combination. If we can strike a balance between the two, these leaders can be best because it will help you stay grounded, as well as you will be seen as trustworthy also. Your confidence and humbleness together can make you a great leader because it will benefit you in all areas of life. Striking a perfect balance can help you in your career, in having good relationships, because both have their own unique benefits. And finding a perfect balance is the key to success. So children need to understand how to strike a balance. Then again, like I said, they have to observe and see. For this, they should, the experiences of the senior students, senior teachers, or their parents at home can give them personal life experiences from which they can gain. Because this is a study which they have to gain through environment by observing. So they need to study that successful leaders, what traits did they have? So I believe that by good observation, they can develop good leadership traits. And of course, confidence with humbleness is the best balance. It is the best trait for a leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, all of you. That was all very kind of you, that you, wonderful deliberations on the topic. And with this, we have reached the end of the session. I would like to call upon Achin for the vote of thanks.
So I think really wonderful session, very seamless. Burrett sir, thank you so much for giving us a great start. I think fundamentally great example, discussion about soil and also about their communication with students at Doon School. I think wonderful examples. Must appreciate you, sir. Dr. Malini Sharma, thank you so much. I think your focus on value system is very apt. And also I really liked your example about community outreach program and the fact that as would be responsible members of the society, children contributing, that's really wonderful. First-hand understanding the issues and contributing. Really wonderful. Must appreciate you for that. Rupakshi madam, I think thank you so much. Some very wonderful and thought-provoking points you raised, like the fact that, and especially from a psychology perspective, the difference between mind and brain, between nature and nurture, and the fact that a very relevant question that can we measure humility? Is it relative? Is it subjective? Is it personal? So I think wonderful, food for thought for all members of our esteemed audience. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Sridevi, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being a part of this August gathering today. And I think very aptly, with great examples, you explained to all of us how to strike a balance between confidence and humility, which is so important. I think that crucial balance is the most important part of today's discussion. So I think I thank all of you again for being a part of this, for enlightening our members of the esteemed audience with your thoughts. So and of course, we'd like to thank members of our audience as well for being here with us today evening. We look forward to your continued support in the sessions to come. Thank you. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.